All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into the Urantia book. Yeah, this is the one you guys sent in. A document that claims to describe a society, get this, on another planet.
And this isn't just some sci-fi story about aliens. This is like anthropology from another galaxy. This document dives deep into the nitty-gritty, their government, their economic system, even their laws. It's wild.
Right. I mean, a whole other planet's government. That's what hooked me too, but what really got me was how oddly familiar it felt. So they start by describing this nation on a continent. It's about the size of Australia, apparently.
And get this, technologically, way ahead of us, at least in some areas, I mean. They've nailed self-sufficiency, their inventions are light years ahead, and their average lifespan, 90 years. But there's a catch. They're surrounded by all these other nations. Less advanced and a lot more, let's say, hostile. Isolated.
Yeah, like an island of progress, you know?
Huh?
Surrounded by, well, you get it. Makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Like, is that just the price of progress, this constant tension between moving forward and staying safe? And speaking of moving forward, can we talk about this government? It's a representative system, sure, but with a twist.
3 branches, like many democratic systems, but here's the kicker. Their legislative branch. It's split into 3 houses. 3.
Okay, now that's just showing off. Go on, break it down for us.
All right, so the upper house, that's your workers organized by industry, pretty standard. Then you've got the lower house, and this is where it gets interesting. The lower house represents all these different social and philosophical groups. Think political parties, but like next level. And then we have the elders. The elders. Like a council of elders. That sounds a little, I don't know, mystical for a government, doesn't it?
Well, think of them as the voice of experience, you know? This third house, it's made up of these seasoned citizens, appointed for life. And the selection criteria. Experience and wisdom, that's it. They're the advisors, the steady hand on the tiller of the state. Can you imagine the debates in that chamber?
Honestly, it sounds kind of intimidating, like way too efficient for my liking. But this focus on wisdom, on experience, it seems to be everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, their views on family and education, total curveball.
Family is everything to them. Like, they have actual laws against multiple families living together. And get this, mandatory parental education. You have to prove you're ready to be a parent.
Wow, talk about pressure.
And then there's the religion, or should I say lack of it. No public institutions, none. Spirituality, that's a family affair, private.
It's like they looked at our world and said, hold my drink.
Right. And then there's education. Forget classrooms and standardized tests. We're talking hands-on, real-world experience from day one.
So what? Like apprenticeships, internships?
More like a complete integration of work and learning. Imagine kids building furniture, growing food, and all the while they're absorbing history, science, culture, everything through the lens of their work. They prioritize practical skills above all else by the time they hit 18. Skilled artisans. Every single one.
Skilled artisans. I was barely a skilled eater at 18.
That's fair. But you see the theme, right? Practicality. That's their thing. Which, of course, leads us to their economic system. That's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I bet. Hit me.
So imagine this. Capitalism and socialism, but like blended. They've blurred the lines, you know? And at the core of it all, worker ownership. They encourage, actually, they incentivize workers to become shareholders in the companies they work for.
So everyone's a part owner. That's a bold move. I mean, it has to solve some problems, right? Like, what about labor disputes?
Gone. Well, almost. Violence of any kind is totally outlawed as a way to settle disagreements, including, and this is key, in the workplace. No more strikes, no more drawn-out negotiations. It's all about finding common ground, making sure everyone benefits from economic growth.
Okay, that sounds idyllic and all, but how do you even manage wages and profits and, you know, keep things fair when it's all about harmony? Is there some kind of central authority calling the shots?
Not exactly a central authority, more like specialized courts. Industrial courts, they call them. And these courts, they don't just settle disputes. They determine what they call legal compensation for everyone.
Okay, now you're speaking a different language. Legal compensation. What's that even mean?
So instead of just leaving wages up to the market or, you know, whatever the boss feels like paying, these courts, they take a broader view. They look at the value that labor brings, yeah, but also skill, the capital invested, the whole picture, and then they try to find that balance where everyone gets a fair cut for their contribution.
So it's like built-in profit sharing, but for the entire society.
Exactly. It's all about making sure everyone benefits from economic growth.
That makes sense, but I got to ask, what about those who can't work? Or the elderly? Is there any kind of safety net?
Absolutely. In fact, they have this incredibly robust old age insurance system. And it's all built on this idea of shared responsibility, shared benefit. You contribute, you benefit.
So like a universal pension fund.
You could say that, but think bigger, way bigger. See, a chunk of everyone's income, it goes straight into the central pension fund.
Okay, so far so good. What's the bigger part?
Well, they also take a big chunk of their revenue from inheritance taxes. And get this, their natural resources.
Hold on, you mean like their oil?
Yeah.
Their minerals? That goes into the pension fund?
Yep. The profits, anyway. They call it a social trust.
Mhm.
Basically, these resources, they belong to everyone. So the profits, they should benefit everyone.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is, isn't it? The government manages all these resources, and the money goes back into education, disease prevention, and of course, those pensions.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to unpack. I can already hear the debates on that one. But let's be honest. We all knew this was coming. Let's talk crime and punishment. Because this is where things get, well, interesting.
Interesting. This is one way to put it. It's definitely a different approach. Like, on the
Yeah.
one hand, they're really strict, especially with violent crimes and corruption. We're talking death penalty is still on the table.
Yeah, I had a feeling that might be the case. But it's not just about punishment, right?
Oh, no, they're big on rehabilitation. Huge emphasis on trying to reform offenders.
Okay, that makes sense.
They even try to identify potential offenders before they actually commit a crime.
What? How?
Yeah, it's pretty out there. Apparently, they've identified these behavioral indicators, and if someone ticks enough boxes, they can be sent to these detention colonies.
Wow. I don't even know. That's a lot of power. And how accurate is it really?
Right. Talk about ethical dilemmas. But speaking of complex issues, let's talk about their military. Because here's another head scratcher. They've got a powerful military, but they haven't actually fought a war in over a century.
A century? So what do they do with this military the whole time?
They're all about that peace through strength thing. But here's the kicker. During peacetime, they're military personnel. They pull civilian duty, infrastructure projects, disaster relief, you name it.
Interesting. So the military isn't just a fighting force. It's like a multi-purpose tool for societal good.
Exactly. It's all about service in every sense of the word.
I like it. But it does make you wonder, what about their neighbors? The less developed ones, I mean.
Yeah.
Do they ever share their tech, their knowledge? Or do they just, keep it all to themselves?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. And according to the document, it's a source of constant debate for them. It's like they're wrestling with this fundamental dilemma. Do they reach out, share what they know, and risk conflict, maybe even exploitation? Or do they maintain their distance, protect what they've built? It's a tough one. No easy answers.
It's the classic conundrum, isn't it? The benevolent superpower versus the isolationist utopia?
Yeah.
It's funny, though, even a society as advanced as this one, they still struggle with the same questions we do. It's a debate we have here, too, isn't it? Intervention versus isolation. It's like every civilization that gets to a certain point hits this fork in the road.
Maybe that's a sign of maturity, though.
Right.
Like, even recognizing that those are the stakes, that there are no easy answers, makes you think twice about what advanced even means.
Yeah, no kidding. It's wild. We've just scratched the surface of this document. But think about it. We've covered their government, their economy, the way they think about crime and punishment, education, even their military. And through it all, they're wrestling with these big questions: fairness, sustainability, what they owe to the rest of the world. Pretty humbling stuff.
You know, what gets me is their focus on balance. I mean, they're not just technologically advanced. They've clearly thought about the social impact, the economic side, even the spiritual side of all that advancement. It's like they're trying to make progress on all fronts without leaving anything behind.
Right. It's like they figured out how to integrate their tech with their values, something we haven't quite cracked yet. It makes you wonder, maybe that's the real secret, isn't it? Finding that harmony between progress and, well, our humanity.
Powerful idea. And it really gets to the heart of what we're doing here, doesn't it? Asking the right questions. Because the answers might change over time, sure, but those big questions, they stick around.
So I'm curious, what's your big takeaway from all this?
You know, it's a good reminder that even a society as different as this one, I mean, potentially alien, right? They still bump up against the same things we do. Like, there are just some universal truths about building a society, dealing with limited resources, trying to figure out justice, finding our place in the universe. Humbling, but also kind of inspiring, don't you think?
Totally. So to everyone listening, if you could ask the society one question Just one. What would it be? What could we learn from their experiences, their wins, even their losses? Because really, isn't that how we grow? By exploring these possibilities, asking these questions together.
And who knows, maybe somewhere out there, someone's asking those same questions about us.
That's a thought. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and keep those fascinating sources coming. You never know what we might uncover.